Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good weekend and welcome back to Subnautica Below Zero, where today I'm going to be showing you how to get into the copper mining site. Yes, I know in the last episode I kept referring to it as the Omega mining site. I was wrong. Why are you all surprised? But anyway, here it is. Actually getting into the mining site is quite difficult. There are two ways to do it. First I'm going to show you the hard way and then explain why I did it the hard way. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is head to the Delta Island with the Delta base and the satellite uplink terminal. You're not actually going to go onto the island, you don't need to do that at all, but you need to find the Delta docking platform, and once you're there, just turn around and look down. And there's going to be a big old thermal vent. And there it is. Now generally, you probably want to stay away from these things because they're big old thermal vents. Now, your sea truck can actually take it. It's just you that can't. Although if you have the hazardous environment wetsuit, you could probably swim down here as long as you timed it to avoid the worst of the thermal discharges. But I don't recommend doing that, because the rabbit warren of caves and tunnels that you're going to have to navigate down here, you'd almost certainly drown before you made it out to the other end. So the sea truck it is. Now, you're going to get the abridged version of my journey to the copper mining site through these thermal vent tunnels, because the whole thing took more than 10 minutes of cautiously trying to avoid getting stuck on corners and bumping into walls and just nosing my way through these tunnels. And honestly, it's not particularly interesting to watch. It does raise a couple of interesting questions though about the way that the environments in Below Zero are, well, they tend to be so different from the environments in the original Subnautica. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you wouldn't really want Below Zero to just be a copy-paste of the original game. But a lot of the environments in Below Zero are quite confined, like this. I mean, this is incredibly narrow and claustrophobic, and perhaps that was the theme that they were going for. You get into places like the twisty bridges and the deep twisty bridges, and, well, they're more open than this, but they're still quite tight and narrow. And then, of course, you've got two different sets of sea monkey caves, and the areas beneath those, which again are quite tight and narrow and claustrophobic in a way that you didn't really get in the original Subnautica, where there were far, far more wide open expanses in a way that you don't really get Below Zero. It's not that there aren't any wide open expanses in Below Zero, there are, but they don't tend to be places that you're heading to. They're just places that you have to pass through in order to get to where it is that you're going, which invariably ends up being a claustrophobic space like this. So it's possible, in fact it's probably even likely, that this was a conscious design choice that the developers had in mind when they were actually building the environments in Below Zero. The problem, at least for me, and judging on the comments in previous videos, the problem for a lot of you as well, is that the wide open spaces present in the original Subnautica introduced a type of fear and tension that you just can't get in Below Zero. Because in all of those wide open expanses in the original Subnautica, there were things that you couldn't see, but the game made damn sure you could hear them. This is the reason why the motion tracker from the Alien franchise was such a genius plot device. Because there wasn't much worse than knowing that things were closing in from all around you without actually being able to see anything to shoot at. And both Ridley Scott and James Cameron knew this. And I felt like the developers of the original Subnautica knew this too, because you had pretty much exactly the same thing when you're swimming around the wreck of the Aurora and other areas where you can hear those Reapers and those Leviathans, and you can hear them getting closer and closer, and if you didn't take the hint, you usually wouldn't see them until it was almost too late, and you had to go to brown alert. The thing is, you can't have that in Below Zero in these kind of environments. You couldn't fit a Leviathan into a tunnel like this. In fact, the most dangerous thing in tunnels like these those really annoying crash fish. So I can kind of see why Unknown Worlds opted to go for this kind of environment design rather than the mostly wide open expanses of the previous Subnautica. One, because they didn't want to just do a copy and paste of the original game. Two, there's a certain element of strategy involved when you're forced to navigate tight tunnels like this in a sea truck, because you can barely fit the cab in here. You absolutely wouldn't be able to navigate these tunnels with any of the optional modules strapped onto the back, so you have to make some hard choices about what you're going to take with you, and I can appreciate that from a game design perspective. The thing is, there's no sense of fear here. There's no sense of not knowing what could be out there in the darkness around you, things that you can hear but you can't see, because there's no space to fit anything into these caves, certainly nothing that's big enough to be a threat to the sea truck. In fact, and I may be wrong here, but I'm not going to be far wrong, I think in the whole of Below Zero there are only 2 Leviathans, and they're both in the same place. So navigating these kind of environments in Below Zero is only ever really going to be scary if you already suffer from claustrophobia. To everybody else, it's just kind of annoying. It's a lot like what was my least favourite part of the original Subnautica. There was an alien geothermal power plant down at extreme depth in the lava zone, and in order to get in and out you had to navigate your way through a tunnel network in a prawn suit. And it was a massive pain in the arse. And that's a problem if you're basing the majority of your sequel on the most irritating parts of the first game, and you're making the conscious decision to strip out what for many players were the best and scariest parts of the first game. I can't help but feel you're missing the point somewhat. This is usually the point in the video where I make some kind of weak sauce excuse like, "No, this doesn't make it bad, it just makes it different," but no, it does make it bad. Anyway, skipping ahead 5 minutes or so to when I finally make it through these tunnels and into the mining site. Now, I mentioned that there were 3 possible ways of getting in here. You've already seen the abridged version of one of them, coming in through those thermal vents and tunnels, which you can do in the sea truck, because you've just seen me do it in the sea truck. It's tight fit, it's awkward, it's annoying as all hell, but you can do it. The other way of getting in here, because this mining site does actually have a front door, yeah, watch out for the rock thumpers. They're normally not this aggressive, or at least they haven't been in my experience, but they are down here. But yes, because this place does actually have a front door, you could walk down here through the front door in a prawn suit, which would be the preferred way of doing it. The thing is, I don't actually have the prawn suit yet. I'm still missing the 4th and final blueprint. Now I can build a prawn suit, except it's a bit late. The 3rd and final, although it may not be actually possible, way of getting down here is to just swim in through the front door using a sea glide. But these oxygen plants are few and far between down here, and it may not actually be possible to fully explore this mining site under your own steam. At some point you'd have to give up and go back, or risk running out of oxygen. Oh, actually, let me just make an amendment to my original statement. I said that there were only 3 ways of getting down here. There are actually 4. There are only supposed to be 3, but there are actually 4. And I discovered this 4th method, well, it's probably easier if I just show you at the correct time. For now, let's take a look and see, other than the prawn suit, what exactly there is down here in the copper mining site for you to discover. There's a whole bunch of these mineral veins, which makes sense, this is a mining site after all. It says you need special equipment in order to take advantage of them, and that basically means the prawn suit drill arm. Something that I'm obviously not able to take advantage of just yet, and wouldn't be able to even if I had built myself a prawn suit. Certainly not if you've used the sea truck to come in through the thermal vents, because there's simply no space in those tunnels to navigate in a sea truck with a docking module and a prawn suit attached. Oh, I don't know, maybe it's possible. It just seems a bit unlikely. So we're at a depth of about 300 meters here. Ooh, what's this?
New technology acquired.
Headlamp. Okay, don't particularly need one. There's a light on the Sea Glide. I can't think of a circumstance where I wouldn't be using the Sea Glide in order to get around. Then again, I suppose if you're using the Sea Glide above water,
30 seconds of oxygen remaining,
and you're running, it lowers the Sea Glide so it doesn't illuminate what's in front of you. Under those circumstances, I can see why a headlamp might actually be useful. More prawn suit stuff over here. That might be a drill arm, actually. It is a drill arm. Alright. Why can't I scan it? Oh, there we go. So, I think it's safe to say that if you're after the prawn suit, or just bits to strap onto the prawn suit, this is definitely the place to go. It just seems more than a little ironic that the most effective way of getting in here is to come here in a prawn suit. So, it's not the first time they've done this in Below Zero. Do you remember when I was crawling around the wreckage of the Mercury 2 and found all these doors and bulkheads that I couldn't get through because I hadn't built a laser cutter? Headed back to Fort Jingles, armed myself with a laser cutter, came back to the wreck of the Mercury 2, cut my way through the doors and bulkheads, and found schematics for the laser cutter. Oh, it's good to know. Oh, shit. I didn't realise rock thumpers could jump like that. Yes. Yeah, like I said, it's good to know that the developers have a sense of humour. It's not just the prawn suit and its various attachments that you're going to want to come down here for, though. There is another Space Viking artifact fragment. Get down one of these side passages. Don't think you can get the sea truck through here, but you can definitely swim using the Sea Glide. Various different prawn suit bits, although at this point you're probably not going to need them anymore. And here it is.
With this artifact, I am again able to trace the imprint of my people. They survived for a time, but then their presence becomes faint.
Doesn't actually give you anything, and there's nothing else in here of value anyway, but I guess it's just nice to hear from Alan again, and it does advance the plot a little. When you reach an area that looks like this, with all these prawn suit bits sitting in racks, do get out of the sea truck. Try to avoid the rock thumpers. And make sure that you pick up the prawn suit jump jet upgrade.
Acquired.
Because I'm pretty sure this is the only place you can find it. There's also a PDA on one of the tables here that you can listen to.
Oh, hey, Parvin. Can I get you to sign off here?
What is all this?
I don't know. Some kind of measuring equipment? Lil said she'd send someone over to set it up later.
Ah, alien science nonsense.
I wouldn't say that. You should ask her to show you some of her findings. It's pretty interesting stuff. There might really be someone down there.
You ask me, scientists have too much control over here.
What?
I'm serious. Look around you. This mining facility extracts every mineral your scientists use to make their equipment. Their bases, their scanners, even your little sea trucks.
I wouldn't call them little.
Do you know the name of a single person who works down here?
Well, I know you, Parvin.
Ah, tell Lillian she's wasting her time. There's nothing down here but workers, and we already know we don't spark her curiosity.
Although, I don't know why you'd want to listen to a couple of dull, unimaginative men question their intellectual female superiors, but, you know, it's there if you want to listen to it. So, I mentioned that there was a fourth way to gain access to this mining site, aside from driving the sea truck in through the thermal vents, walking in through the front door in a prawn suit, or swimming in through the front door in a sea glide, and then hoping that you could make it between the very thinly scattered oxygen plants enough to explore fully without running out of breath. The thing is, if you do elect to take the sea truck route through the thermal vents, what's supposed to happen is you finally make it all the way through the mining site to the main entrance, and the doors are jammed, and the gap isn't big enough to fit a sea truck through. you can squeeze a prawn suit through, but not a sea truck. So what's supposed to happen, if you've gotten this far in a sea truck by coming through the thermal vents, is that you get to these doors. They're too narrow to get the sea truck through, except they're not too narrow to get the sea truck through if you go through sideways. You're meant to abandon the sea truck inside the mining facility, hopefully remembering to strip it of all the useful upgrades and then swim back to your base of operations using the sea glide and then just build a fresh sea truck. That's the trade-off that you're supposed to make when exploring the copper mining site in the sea truck, but well, as you can quite plainly see, they did about as good a job of that as they did with everything else in Below Zero. Oh well, never mind. Still, I do at least now have the prawn suit at last, as well as the drill arm, grappling arm, and jump jet upgrade for the prawn suit, all of which were very, very useful in the first game. Unfortunately, when you first get the prawn suit, it has a distinctly underwhelming maximum safe diving depth of only 400 meters, but because I didn't actually get my hands on the prawn suit until quite late on in the game, I already have all of the materials that I need in order to craft the upgrades that will allow me to take the prawn suit down to its maximum crush depth of 1,100 meters. I don't know about you, but I was very much looking forward to finding out what exactly it was down at those kind of depths that I was going to need the prawn suit for. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to wait to find out, because that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you're all having a great weekend, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.